It is just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Dr. Robert Allen Faiella, DMD, MMSc, MBA, and Wardah Inam, PhD. My gosh, this is going to be a fun show. I got Robert here. He's the greatest. I got Wardah here. She's the latest. Ladies first, we'll introduce Dr. Wardah Inam, PhD, is the CEO of Overjet, the leading provider of AI solutions for the dental industry to help improve patient care. She has been ranked among the 32 most influential people in dentistry by Incisal Edge. Prior to founding Overjet, she led product management at a Silicon Valley-based healthcare startup, QBio, working on biomedical imaging. Before that, she was a postdoctoral fellow at MIT Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Lab, where she worked on remote biomedical sensing using machine learning on wireless signals. She received a PhD from MIT, where she developed AI-powered microgrid technology. This work received widespread recognition, including National Geographic covering it as a breakthrough that could transform the way we power the world. She has corporate experience in GE and Apple and is a recipient of the MIT Graduate Woman of Excellence Award. My gosh. And you got your PhD. You also went to Sloan School of Management. I mean, my God. And then we have Robert Allen Faiella, DMD, MMC, MBA, is the Chief Dental Officer for Overjet, a leading provider of AI-powered technology in dentistry. He is a past president of the American Dental Association and currently serves as Director and Treasurer of the American Board of Periodontology and as treasurer of the American College of Dentists. He received his graduate training in periodontal as an NIH postdoctoral fellow at Harvard School of Dental Medicine, as well as a Master's of Medical Science degree from Harvard Med School. He also received his Master's of Business Administration at MIT Sloan School of Management. I don't even think I'm smart enough to interview either of you two. I think you guys should just have a discussion among yourselves, and the idiot from Kansas will just sit back and watch. I mean, my gosh. And Robert, how did you get talked into this? I mean, you're the guy with the resume 1.5 miles long. What got you? And you're a periodontist. Are you going to tell us that AI is somehow going to make me? Will it prove that flossing is real? I know the New York Times said there was no data for flossing, so I assume you entered this project to prove with AI that flossing really works. Was that your deal?
Well, not so much about flossing because I already knew that, Howard. So, but one of the things that I feel is really important is the fact that, the transformation toward digital dentistry and electronic communications really started back in the early 2000s when the electronic record started to move into the dental space. And with the electronic record, people started then engaging in as well claims submission electronically, electronic imaging. And so all of that started back in the early 2000s, and it's just been growing since then, now to the point where people are engaging CAD/CAM planning for prostheses, three-dimensional printing, and AI is just a natural sequence to that because of the amount of data that we're capturing every year and the number of data points, which we never have an opportunity to really utilize other than to collect unless when the patient is sitting right with us at the point of service. So with that, the opportunity to then tease out information that we never could see before beyond our own cognition and be able to use that in ways that are very meaningful for not only the patient, but also to stratify their risk in the treatments that we provide.
So it seems like the first thing of AI, and you might want to talk about what is the difference in AI and machine learning, but it seems to me like it's a more of a graphic technology. I mean, I don't know, but when I read it, it looks like AI or machine learning, and not sure what the difference is, but that it reads graphics, which is why insurance companies and radiology are looking at it to read CAT scans, MRIs. Everyone was talking on Dental Town about there was a person resubmitting the same X-ray over and over for a root canal, and she got busted for it and went to jail. So I can see how the insurance companies could use it for images, but do you think this is really going to assist diagnosing and treatment planning?
So absolutely. To your first question of, what is AI and what is machine learning? So think of AI as a buzzword and think of machine learning as a field of this big buzzword of AI, which encapsulates machines having more intelligence. But machine learning is now where you start developing different techniques to be producing this intelligent or encoding human understanding into models. So it is the same, you could use them interchangeably. You could use AI as the main buzzword, and then use machine learning for the techniques that you utilize here. And to your question of, is it a graphical technology? The way we look at it is it's taking unstructured data, so data that you could never query. That is images, that could be notes, that could be other forms of information that has never been put into a database that you could easily query. And now you have an ability to take an image that you could not say in an image, is it what is there number two present in an image? You could not query that with a model before, and now you're able to. So it's taking any unstructured data, in this case images, and converting into more structured data that you can start querying and getting information from, or understanding findings in that. And to your question of will it be utilized in dentistry? I think in the next few years, if you were not utilizing it, that might be an issue for you, because at least dentists right now have started utilizing these technologies to improve the care that they're providing, as well as improve their practice performance as well.
Well, here's one thing that's got me excited. I mean, I've been saying this for 30 plus years, that if you walk into any dental office in America and you see a dentist walk out of an operatory and he was in there for an hour and he did 2 fillings, I'll say, okay, you just did 2 MOD fillings. Did you net $9.12 after taxes, or did you lose $12? I've never met one person that had an idea, unless they work for a DSO, and then the office manager knows, but the dentists don't know. And then I'll say, well, tell me this, how much do you get for each one of those fillings? He says, well, I get $250 for an MOD, so I did 2 for $500. And then you go look at his computer, and he signed up to 12 different insurance plans, and none of them are as high as $250. Well, the highest one might be 200, and it goes all the way down to 100. And I'm trying to think of, imagine being 7-Eleven and you sell a bottled water and you don't know what you buy it for, but you sell it for 12 different prices. And I mean, this is the biggest advantage of a DSO, is that they know their numbers. And this is a problem, because in dentistry, all these dashboards have taken off where they're taking data. Do you think AI someday will be able to take all your information from Quicken or QuickBooks Pro, or I use Peachtree Accounting, and then your Open Dental Practice Management software, and actually be able to tell you, hey, dude, you're scheduled to lose $50 next hour doing 2 fillings for $100 in a room that cost you $200? Do you think that's around the corner?
Well, I think it's definitely around the corner, and it's actually present. Funny thing about, somebody said one time, machines are dumb but really fast. People are brilliant but slow by comparison. It was really kind of an interesting quote. And I think, there'll never be one or the other without both, because I think clearly, be able to do things at scale manually would be very difficult to do. So you may sit down and figure out all of those metrics that you have for your practice. You can try to calculate all of your discounted rates based on the different insurances that you work with. But I think machines can do that very, very quickly. They can pick up the patterns. They can give you the utilization rates and a variety of other KPIs that you have in your practice, as well as to be able to look at scale across your patient base at things that you can query, as Wardah had mentioned. So there are many things that AI can do, and more every year, because machines get, in machine learning, and particularly in deep learning, the models with more input, the more data they see, the smarter they get, and the more information and more patterns they can pick up. And so it's a very interesting combination.
You know what? That was the most brilliant summary I've heard of that, where you say computers are dumb and fast and people are smart and slow. Well, I was reading and studying on this stuff and over Christmas, and my 1-year-old grandson, he touched the charcoal grill where we were charcoaling. He touched it one time and he pulled his hand back and he ran away. And I was there 10 days. He never touched it again. He had one data point, never touched it again. And from what I read of machine learning, you would need like millions and millions of data points before the machine would finally figure out, hey, don't touch the charcoal grill. I mean, is that pretty much it? That humans are really smart. He only needed one data point and never did it again, where machine learning would need a million data points.
Yeah, I think there is. We will get better, and techniques are going to develop. So earlier, when you needed, say, millions, now that number is coming down as well because the models themselves get smarter. So over time, there is a trend to start looking at more sophisticated models requiring less data as well. But you've nailed it in the sense that humans, what machines are good at is right now, which is a narrow form of artificial intelligence, which is doing one task well. So while your grandson might be learning X number of things from that task, machines are learning exactly what you're telling them to be learning at this time. So it is a lot has to do with the human input that is being provided, that they're learning from. So definitely, we're getting better, and machines are getting better. But we at this time, we cannot mimic the general intelligence that exists in human beings.
Well, I have a lot of faith in artificial intelligence because when I read 5,000 years of human history, I don't think natural intelligence worked out very well. So I don't know how they could do worse than that. Do you, if someone is listening to you right now and they're saying, okay, AI can help me diagnose and treatment plan an X-ray or radiograph, how could someone use that today? I mean, where would that be available? Is that with one of the major CBCT machines? And by the way, the CBT machine, I bought mine from Carestream, no financial connection there. But it was really a humbling experience to be sitting there with, when we got it, there was 3 docs in there. We're all around 55 to 65. And there wasn't one CBCT where we were staring at it thinking, what the hell is that? I felt like I was an astrologer saying, that looks like Pisces or Virgo, or there's just no way you could really read that. But how would a dentist utilize AI in reading a radiograph today?
So currently, I can talk a little bit more, and Bobby add to this. How currently our software works. So the overjet software, if you install it in your practice, what it'll do is first analyze all the data in your practice and let you know where do you stand. So can provide you a complete picture of your practice performance, any things that you might be missing, anything that you might be overlooking, things that might be just falling through the cracks. Things that might be going wrong, and it can give you a complete picture of the practice. And once you have that, then you can start improving that performance daily or by every patient that comes into the patient's or sits in the patient's chair, not only in a way to identify the findings such that the way to think about it is something similar to what your hygienist does currently. When you walk into the operatory, the hygienist has your x-rays open and it points out Dr. So-and-so, on tooth number 2, caries lesion, I found a caries lesion, etc. The same thing the machine can do as well, or overjet software points out what is present in the findings, and you can now have a summary of what's present, quickly look at it, make an assessment, and then use that visualizations that exist to communicate better to the patient as well, for them to better understand or get more informed about what's happening in their mouths, rather than seeing a gray and white image that they might not know, or try to squint whether there is a darker area or a darker spot that you might be pointing to. So it helps in the patient experience, as well as the dentist's ability to be conveying to the patient better, and them getting more informed and making their decision.
So let's start with your features. And by the way, this is not a commercial. I asked them to come on this show, and it took a lot of time to talk Robert into it. He said, I just can't stoop that low. Look at my resume, dude. You're from Kansas. But let's start with the insurance. You say automate. If you go to their website is overjet.ai, overjet. I don't know if the orthodontists are going to like this. They usually fix overbites and overjets, but did you name it that just to rub orthodontists the wrong way? And why didn't you go with overbite instead of overjet?
So it's, it just started as one name that we, it was a terminology that I primarily looking at how interesting dentistry is in terms of overjet, where you have, you need 2 or 3 millimeters to close the bite properly. If you have it slightly more, then you get what is known as buck teeth. If you don't have that, you will have more jaw pain, etc. So, how precise dentistry is, it encapsulates that. Also, a terminology that most average or non-dentists don't know of that commonly. And when we started saying the word, they saw it, especially with the jet in the name, they saw it as futuristic, future-looking. So basically, and dentists had a chuckle. So we stuck with the name. It was, something that we started very early on, but stuck with it because dentists liked it and patients thought it was futuristic.
Well, Robert, we got to make a good ortho joke out of this. I mean, while an overjet measures the horizontal relationship between the upper front teeth and lower front teeth, an overbite refers to the vertical overlap. There's got to be a joke in there somewhere. I'll work on it. But back to the let's go to insurance. You say you automate claim review, move from manual and inconsistent review to automated and efficient review of every claim to improve return on investment. It decreased costs, replace manual cost review by automatic review, reduce appeals, provide consistent, accurate, and quantitative review, increase scale, review all claims versus only outliers, reduce turnaround time. Is the insurance, was that your first big application for the company overjet.ai?
So the way we started it was looking at where can this technology be applied to help improve patient care. And what we realized was that insurance was dealing with a huge problem, that is reviewing significant amount of claims. They could not get to all the claims, so they were spot checking claims and denying claims with inconsistency. And here the idea was, if you could actually provide a consistent review, be able to quantify the findings that existed, could you help improve the review that was being done, and in the end to make sure that the right treatments get done and the wrong treatments get denied. And here we started off with the insurance use case, primarily because for the insurance or any insurance company, it is a data company. They're making all their data or all their decisions just based on the data. So it helped us. We had all the information that the insurance company had when they were making a decision, and technology could help review a lot of the data very, very quickly and make more consistent recommendations with which you can actually help improve the provider-payer relationship, so such that any claim that is being denied, there is a justification for it, rather than it gets denied and then there is an appeal. So that we saw it as a very important application, and something that it has gotten adopted. We're working with multiple payers right now who have fully automated their claim review process when it comes to claim acceptances, and the denials are getting reviewed only. And so this has gone into production last year, and now and we're scaling up and entering more insurance companies as well.
So everything you just said was more for the insurance company side, right, than the dentist side, right?
Yes.
So is that your or any of the major dental insurance companies your new customers, not like Delta, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United, any of those?
You've named some of our customers and others, names that you might have heard of as well. So we will be starting to, this year we'll be disclosing some of the names. But every major insurance company is either using this technology or is looking at using this technology. But we are not just limited to insurance. That was our first application. But in the end, the dentist is who provides the care, and we provide solutions for dentists as well. And I think Bob could speak more about the solutions we're providing for the dentists.
So I really, what got me to call you was that amazing article about Overjet, a Harvard and MIT dental tech startup applies AI to improve oral care, and published in none less than Forbes, talking about amid the vigorous debate about the state of the U.S. healthcare system, the glaring inequality in dental care among Americans is understated. The New Republic reported that in 2017, over 100 million individuals in the U.S. lacked any dental coverage. The lack of insurance makes it cost prohibitive to get care, even for those who do have insurance. The average annual cost of visits in 2012 was $745. The price is guaranteed to have increased, blah, 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 blah. But what did you think of that article, and did you like it?
The article was great. I thought it really captured where AI could be of extreme benefit to the dental profession. And everybody reads occasionally in the newspaper, or on television, there's some I-team which will show, oh, somebody went to a dentist and they got one treatment plan from one dentist and they got another treatment plan for another dentist. They point out the discrepancy in the cost and they say, gee, how can this be? It's the same person. How can they have so many different options? Well, it's because every condition warrants maybe one or two or three different options for the patient. You can give the one case scenario where you're going very aggressively at treating all the disease they have. And then you have another person that may watch certain areas, treat certain areas. So if we can come together and really figure, if you have a certain criteria, and the intersection comes between payer and provider. So in the office, when we're trying to submit codes, there are certain criteria that codes have to meet in order to be approved for the treatment you want to provide. Let's say scaling and root planing. Certain amount of bone loss has to be present, certain number of teeth have to be involved. And so many times, patient will come into a hygienist, a lot of inflammation, a lot of calculus, a lot of bleeding. Patient has only so much time in the chair with a hygienist. The hygienist says, I'm never going to get this finished in 1 hour. Let's recommend scaling and root planing. The dentist said, okay, they see the inflammation, they see the calculus and the bleeding. They may put in for scaling and root planing, it comes back denied. And the office is shocked. And so they say, well, let's just resubmit, let's put in an appeal. So the appeal goes in. What happens is, there are different interpretations of where that is. Maybe there's no bone loss in the area that meet the criteria for scaling and root planing of 2 millimeters or more per se. Let's say that's the criteria for the insurance company. So when that happens, there are other codes to deal with that kind of inflammation that they can do, like a 4642, or there's a number of different codes that can be applied, but not scaling and root planing 4341. So one of the benefits of AI is when we look at scale, patient comes in that day and you use the platform, all of the x-rays that are for the patient are up on the dashboard. You know who's coming in, and it identifies if you're using the scaling and root planing model or the periodontal model. You can see the number of teeth that they have, which teeth they have that have probing depths beyond a certain level that would warrant that kind of treatment. They show it has a canvas where you can pull up the radiograph. The radiograph has an annotation, which will identify the millimeter measurements from CEJ to bone on every single tooth. And then you can toggle on the ones that are relevant beyond a certain criteria or not, whether there's calculus on the root surface or on enamel. And you can kind of tease that out. So if a patient that I first mentioned that goes through that algorithm and the dentist was using it, they would say, well, it doesn't meet the criteria. There's no bone loss that would meet that. There's no calculus on root, but there's certainly plenty of calculus on the enamel. And this may not meet the criteria for scaling root planing. And let's put in for a different code. So all of these things can be identified at the point of service, and then the patient can be informed and educated about their need for treatment. And it makes that discussion a little bit easier. Many times somebody would recommend a crown or somebody would recommend a restoration. And the water cool conversation at work is, my dentist recommended a crown, but I've been there going for a long time. I trust them. I guess I need a crown. But they don't really have that sense that they really need it or not, especially if they're asymptomatic. If you're using that platform and you have the ability to show definitively the indications for that crown, not only are you making the recommendation and you're confirming the need for that as a clinician, but you're also showing the patient that this has been identified through the algorithm that they're using, increasing technology, and informing them exactly why they need this. And I think that raises to a different level of understanding. And then when you give informed consent, the patient is truly giving informed consent.
So I got to tell you the comment. I love my homies on Dentaltown. They're so funny. You published an article on Medium, why I joined Overjet, the rising era of AI in dental care delivery. And I loved your article. And you said that you had come to the realization that dentistry is at the forefront of a transformative change in our ability to deliver care in an enhanced and efficient manner. So it says, why did I join Overjet? You said because Overjet is aligned perfectly to lead and drive the process in both sectors. Here's why. I believe dental medicine is late to the game in adopting AI and machine learning to improve our clinical intelligence in the delivery of care, as well as identify efficiencies for insurance in the adjudication of claims in a standardized manner. And I got to tell you, the first comment on Dentaltown was just what the dental therapist wanted. They're seeing it as a an economic threat. And what I wanted to know is, now that my 4 boys are independent and have their own homes and made 6 dependents, as I'm phasing out, and it's all about the grandkids, right? And if my grandchild had dental insurance or whatever, and they went to, say, a dentist in a small town, say there was 10 dentists in a small town, and these 5 dentists, if they did a root canal in 5 years, 10% of them were extracted, and these 5 dentists did a root canal, and in 5 years, only 5% were extracted. I would want my granddaughter to be transparent to that information. I'm shocked when I've seen cardiology deals where the 24-hour survival rate of a bypass per cardiologist varies between 1 and 11%. Hell, I don't care if Medicare or Medicaid or my insurance covers it. I just don't want to go to the guy where 11 people die in 24 hours versus 1. But this is a huge threat to the dental union organization where, they wish insurance companies would pay them $1 million per crown. Or do you think that Overjet will start that soon they'll start analyzing insurance data, and it might get to the point where they say, "Oh, Howard, we don't cover your root canals because you're not very good at it." And or did you think that's around the corner too?
Well, no, I would, listen, using data to be able to verify certain things, if you have certain criteria, and if you align yourself with an insurance company that publishes their criteria, you should be applying that criteria. And the ADA's code on dental terminology and procedure and code and nomenclature, all of that is published. The descriptors are published. The point is that, somebody said one time to the argument that, just what the dental therapist wanted, we're not intending this to be able to substitute for a dentist acumen. Your clinical acumen is still there to verify the presence of disease, to recommend informed consent to the patient with different options they have for treatment, the indications for why they should or should not do it, what the risks are, and what the benefits are. And somebody said to me one time, you never pay an anesthesiologist to put you to sleep, you pay them to wake you up. and because it's the acumen you have when there's a complication, when there's something that's different, that will be able to verify and then solve that issue iteratively. It's not just a sequential sequence of, yes, this is what you need to do. Yes, this is present. Let somebody do it. So, we can talk about policy all day. The fact is that this is meant for insurance companies to understand, to decrease their clinical team's variation and interpretations of certain, and align with their own clinical guidelines, and make their teams a little bit more cohesive in the way they interpret certain things. Now, they always need that clinical team because sometimes you're right on the fence. If you need 50% or less bone to deny a crown, let's say, because there's 50% or less support, it's an extraction. What if it's tooth number 19? So the patient comes in, great bone on the mesial, 17 and 18 are gone, and there's a lot of bone loss on the distal. There's no furcation involvement. The tooth is stable. They may say, there's some loss on the distal, the tooth is stable, there's no furcation involvement, great bone on the mesial, will allow for that because it's the last molar in that area. So they have to make certain clinical decisions within their guidelines and their policies. So there are some times when any time something is denied, they really need to take a hard look at that and see whether this is an indication for acceptance or denial, or they require more information. So this isn't something that I think we're intending to have any negative effect. This is to help people deliver care and advance patients' care.
And I'll add to that, the way to think about it is, and for anybody who's worried is, if you're submitting the right claim, it should never be denied. And it should be, and the speed of reimbursement should be even faster. If you're submitting a wrong claim, then it should go through a review of the 2 weeks review, et cetera, that goes through. But the right claim, going through the process that currently exists is not the right process for it. So for the people who are a little worried about it, it basically helps to ensure that the right claims get paid, not only every time, but also much faster, because human review takes much longer than a machine review. And secondly, if you think about in the practice, rather than every practice we've entered into, and this is, some of the best practices in the Boston area with, all the Harvard professors, et cetera, who are doing it very thoroughly, everything. Even in that, there's so many things that fall through the cracks. And we find significant amount of improvement in not only the care that they provide, but also their revenue because of the treatments that are just going miss or they're missing out. For example, periodontal disease is completely underdiagnosed when it comes to dentistry, especially periodontitis. If you look at, say, the amount, and CDC says it, there's a lot of work on it. And now the reason is, or the discussion is why that happens. A dentist does so much in a practice that some things just get missed. And this is an opportunity to make sure that the right treatments are getting done, because the right treatment is not just about revenue. It's about the patient care that it provides well or improves. So I think people who are looking at the technology, I would encourage them to go on the website and sign up for a demo. They can actually see how it actually helps the dentist in this case to improve the care, improve their revenues, rather than the other way around where it's going to replace them or hinder their production.
One of the things that's most difficult about dentistry is we sell the invisible. I mean, when you buy an iPhone, you know what it is, a bottle of water. I'm a health food fanatic, so it'd be like a Big Mac fry and a Coke. I mean, I know exactly what I'm talking about. But when a dentist looks at you and says you need 4 cavities, Robert knows this. I don't know if you probably weren't born when this came out, but I mean, the Pulitzer Prize winning William Eckerberg back in 1997, February 97, wrote an article in Reader's Digest that said how dentists rip us off. And he took a study model, FMX, and a Pano to 30 different dentists, and sure enough, he got 30 different treatment plans. So and everybody talked about this. I mean, it was just it was a huge blow up in the deal. And then there was lately there was that article about towards data driven dentistry and standardized care. But the dentists, they my gosh, if you got 20 opinions, they're going to come up with 20 different treatment plans. There was a DAIC publishes first study findings showing glaring inconsistency in dental diagnosis and treatment. 136 dentists were unable to unanimously agree on diagnosis and treatment for a single tooth in the study. Per dentist, whole mouth treatment cost range from a high of $36,000 to a low of a few hundred. So, I mean, if I'm a consumer, and I know if I went out and got 100 treatment plans, I'd get 100 different opinions. I mean, it kind of shows why dentistry is more art than science.
Well, the interesting thing, Howard, is it's not a Stepford profession. I mean, it's, everybody's clinical acumen is Stepford, kind of like all iterative. We're not all walking in kind of a lockstep on exactly what the treatment iterations are, because if we can identify disease, we can identify the structures that are present. There is a variety of different ways to approach that, and there's a variance of acumen and experience in the profession. That's why it's not only sequential in some cases, but also iterative. And so sometimes you actually have to put the occlusion into perspective. You have to look at the patient's occlusal scheme, whether or not there's some bruxism involved, whether you recommend a crown or not, what type of crown you recommend, whether or not you're going to remineralize a carious lesion in the enamel versus, perhaps being more definitive about it. There's data that shows once you place a restoration, the odds of having it replaced in your lifetime are pretty high. But if the restoration is necessary, it's an important recommendation. Which restoration do you place? And so all of those decisions are made in the context of the overall patient's risk profile, their stratified risk, what there needs to be completed for their total function. And also the medications they're on, maybe some of the systemic diseases they have that may influence their risk. So sure, you take something as standardized as here's a panoramic film, here's a bite wing, and here's a model set, and give them to 30 dentists, you'll probably have different acumens looking at each one of those.
Did you say it's not a step forward profession?
No, Stepford, like the Stepford Wives movie, if you remember that.
Oh, the Stepford
They were
Wives.
all the same. So we're not all the same. They don't mint us that way.
Okay.
And I think, Howard, one thing to add here is I think we're too harsh to dentists. The amount of stuff that dentists do, no, I don't know any other profession that they get trained to do that much, whether it is, now they have to run their own business, they have to do radiography, they have to, understand x-rays, they have to do 1,000 procedures. It's just a lot they do. But then on top of it, they have technology which sucks. Right now, the technology that, we as technologists have failed dentists in what we provide them as their practice management systems. They are literally from, very archaic. Then on top of that, x-rays, if you look at it, the modality, even, given all the information, there is a lot of variation that you might have on a carious lesion because the information isn't right there. And there you have to, it's very hard to make a diagnosis on an x-ray as well, the way it currently exists. So I think there's an opportunity to start supporting the dentists, making sure that we're building technology that helps them perform better. Dentists are one of the smartest people that exist in at least, they get into dental school, they're working hard, they're providing so much, but it's the technology here where I think you can have a lot of improvement and helping support them to do their job better, rather than, looking at a particular one study or the other where you might have variation, and the variation does exist. And we've done a lot of studies on that as well. And that's how overjet started as well. I changed my dentist, went to a new dentist, and got a treatment plan, which was very different, and started looking at why was the case. As a patient, you end up going with the dentist who is recommending the less or the least amount to you, but that might not always be true. So there is an opportunity here to make it, to your point, make it from an art to a science, make sure that there's evidence behind every decision, but provide the dentists the technology so that they can provide the right care as well. Because again, we're asking too much of dentists right now.
Nice and well said. Dr. Faiella, in 2013, you were in the ADA news about when Congress was doing the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act and all your views on that. That was 2013. So let's roll forward to 2021. And since I took geometry, I know that's, well, I don't know the answer to that. I'd have to get out a calculator. But now it's 2021. And Congress just passed the McCarran-Ferguson antitrust exemption, supported the repeal of the McCarran-Ferguson antitrust exemption for health insurance companies. Do you see, what are your thoughts on that? I haven't seen you write up an article in the ADA about that, but what are your thoughts on this now?
Well, I think, that's something that we've been working on. We, the profession, the ADA, has been working on for a long time. McCarran-Ferguson, I believe, was passed first in 1945, I believe. But it was, it provided the insurance companies to be able to share information that dentists can't share. So in some ways, it was a way for us to level the playing field in terms of the ability for dentists and insurance companies to work in the same manner with regard to discussing certain issues. Now, in point of fact, things won't really change too quickly because obviously once that's passed, there'll be challenges along the way, and we'll have to work through some of those challenges. But I think by and large, it's a great change for the profession, and I think it's something that has true promise to provide better care for patients and better reimbursement for the care that they receive.
It didn't seem like it was a legal playing field. I'm out here in Arizona, and I remember 3 decades ago, way back in the late 80s, early 90s, when they were coming out with this new capitation plan. And these 3 dentists at a small town Arizona were writing letters to each other saying, well, if they don't pay us at least this much, I'm not going to do it. But then the 3 of them wrote a letter to the insurance company thinking to start a conversation, not knowing this is completely an illegal conversation. And oh my God, they got spanked so hard. I felt sorry for them because it wasn't like they were these bad guys doing bad things. They just have overheads. I mean, you got rent, mortgage, equipment, bill, computer, insurance, malpractice, professional. I mean, it goes on and on. And when I think of insurance, I'll never forget my first lecture in China when I had breakfast with the president of the Chinese Dental Association, and all the Chinese dentists. They were so cool. I loved them all. And they thought that insurance was a moral hazard. They were like, look, if you eat chocolate and drink Coca-Cola 3 times a day and have 12 cavities, why would your employer or your country subsidize that? I mean, you should have to get a part-time job and pay for this so that you would start drinking water like all the other animals and only eating plants and animals like all the other animals and quit eating all this packaged goods. So they still see insurance as a moral hazard. And then when you look at the 8 billion people, gosh, probably well over 6 billion have no form of dental insurance. So I almost think that the 20 richest countries, it's weird how when they got skin in the game and buy their car, or they're out there on Sunday and washing it by hand, but then they think their body, they can just smoke cigarettes and eat Cheetos, and when something goes wrong, it's somebody else's fault. Like take a bypass. It's $100,000. So you had the money to buy a $10 pack of cigarettes every day for 40 years with your own money. And then when you need a $100,000 bypass, you walk out there in your front yard and tell all your neighbors to pay for it. So it's kind of so how do you even you know, childhood cancer, that's very different than dental decay and gum disease. I mean, my gosh, these all on 4s. Have you ever seen them? A year later, they come in, you could blow a ham sandwich out from underneath, and that shouldn't even be fixed. That should be removable so they could clean it, but for aesthetics, they want it fixed, and you can tell why they need it all on 4 anytime you see one. So how do you justify in your mind this growing belief that healthcare should all be free and you should have no skin in the game versus the economics of incentives matter and you should have skin in the game, and that dentistry is for the most part a 99% behavioral issue for all that? How do you wrestle that?
Howard, thank you for saying that, because patient responsibility is a very important piece of this. I mean, when you say, and here's the differential. So somebody has insurance coverage, and there are usually frequency limitations. So if you're going to have a restoration or a crown, there's a certain amount of time that that tooth can't be recrowned according to the frequency limitations that are in place. So you take somebody that drinks Coca-Cola and has a lot of sugar, doesn't brush, not compliant with maintenance recommendations, and that person's going to, let's say 3 years later, all of a sudden there's caries at the margin, and now you have to replace that crown and it's denied. But what about the person who doesn't drink the sugar and the Coke and eat a lot of carbohydrates, and that does take good care of themselves and is compliant but has diabetes? So that patient's stratified risk is a lot higher because of a systemic condition rather than a self-induced, condition, because that's a choice of the lifestyle. So with something like that, benefiting at the level where stratified risk and somebody that has a systemic condition that is known to have shared risk factors would be something that would be really beneficial, not only for the patient, but also for the clinician that feels obligated to make that recommendation that this be changed because of the condition that they have. And we are really hard. Dentistry is the only I like to say dentistry is the only profession that tries to put itself out of work every day. I mean, we would love people to be compliant. We would love people to come in and never have a problem. But that doesn't happen because they're obviously, unless you stick your head in a gnotobiotic environment in a bubble with no bacteria, you'll have plaque in your mouth. You will react to it sometimes in things that are not controllable. pH of your saliva, the proteins that are there, temperature under the gum line, your immune system, all genetically influenced. And some people have more than others, and how they react to the bacteria is something different. So, those are the things that are on the table for discussion right now with medical dental integration. And how can plans then benefit people who have significant uh, non-communicable diseases that are significant to their life? And the four top ones, for globally are the greatest killers. Cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes. Those all have very, very, very typical connections with oral health. And so the more we can kind of tie that in and then see if some plans can be stratified plans to optimize prevention rather than intervention, I think that'd be a helpful thing, not only for the patient, but for the profession as a whole.
I'm going to ask you a wild, deep, crazy question that no one ever likes to talk about. And but as you get older and older and older, you have these reflections on how everything is just kind of crazy. It's like the people. Of course, they want everything free. I mean, I wish I could go get a free Lamborghini today. I think that'd really make my day, a convertible Lamborghini, and just drive around all day. But that's not how the world works. And of course, the people want it free. And in the 20 richest countries, they're trying to make dentistry free, and they're trying to make it a charity profession. And as they get, and first of all, the need for it. They go to the government to try to make it free in charity, but the government's the one that made it unaffordable, from what Milton Friedman said with the State Board of Examiners. So the State Board, I'm in here in Arizona. I'm across the street from the Guadalupe Indian Reservation. There's 20,000 Indians and a bunch of people from Mexico. Every time a Mexican dentist comes up there and starts doing dentistry on the poor in this 20,000 person area, Guadalupe, that doesn't have one dentist, the board tells the police and they go arrest them, stop them, deport them. So if there was, if a dentist, there's probably 100,000 dentists in India that would move here tomorrow if they could. But so the board is a collusion, and they say, well, you can't practice here unless you go to our schools and take our boards and our license and blah, 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 blah. So they are the ones that are creating all the lack of supply of dentists for the poor. And then because they made all these arrangements where there's still not one dentist in Guadalupe with 20,000 in the 32 years I've been here. And it's all because of the Arizona State Board of Dental Examiners. So that shows you it's a collusion mob. And then as as it progresses and dentistry becomes a charity profession, meaning that the reimbursements keep getting lower and lower and lower, like the UK, then the dentists will start to unionize. So you see that. So that's 10, 20 years down the road. So which is it? Do you eliminate the boards or tell the boards, well, I'm a consumer and I want to go to this guy named Robert and I don't know if he's any good. And I go to the board and the board says, yeah, he's licensed by the Arizona State Board of Dental Examiner. Now it's like a consumer response review. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to you. This other guy is not certified. He didn't go to a U.S. school, blah, 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 blah. But I mean, which one is it? Are you going to get rid of the boards and let foreign trained dentists come in here and treat the poor for a lower fee? Or are dentists eventually going to unionize? And no one can answer that question for me. So I'm going to ask you, this is headed as reimbursement rates go down and the supply of dentists goes up. Eventually, the dentists in other countries around the world, they start to unionize. Do you see dentists forming a union in the future?
I don't see that. I mean, that's just not something I see as, I think, consolidation of practices and providing better care at scale, sharing expenses. I think that's been going on for a while now. Let me get back to the point that you mentioned about bringing in. First of all, the reason that the boards exist is to set some standard for not only competency but also for knowledge in a variety of other areas. It's very difficult when you look at all of the training programs around the world to make them to find parity, because sometimes they don't keep the records, they don't have the same didactic hours, they don't have the same clinical hours in some ways. The oversight isn't as it is in this country. Now, many excellent dentists from other countries come here. They fulfill a 2-year follow-up in a dental school where they can assure that they have the competency. They follow the licensing requirements for the state boards, and they they take the test. That's another different issue, the testing issue. But I said, when they finally are in practice, many of them are moving into some of the highest end practices there are. Also, some of them provide a lot of charity work as well. So, and dentists probably give away more pro bono treatment that they don't talk about, which is another thing that many people are unaware of. When you go to the Hill, to testify on a certain issue, everybody thinks the dentists are just wealthy and healthy, and that's the only patients they want to have is wealthy and healthy. That's not necessarily true. And many of us give many hours of treatment and high level care to patients that can't afford it in our own way, pro bono. But the other side of that is, when you have this requirement, everybody gets a sense that because the underserved are not being treated, it's not necessarily because of a lack of dentists to population ratio. It's a distribution issue. I mean, a lot of people want to live near the coast in the big cities, and a lot of people don't live in the middle of a very rural area where there's a low density, and it's going to be very difficult to maintain a practice. And so, federally qualified health centers in health shortage areas, rural medicine and dentistry, are serving a lot of need there. But I think in terms of the discussion about giving everything away for free or having nationalized healthcare, the one thing I think about that is it's kind of a monopsonistic model. So everybody knows about monopoly is when you're the largest, provider of goods and services. Monopsony is when you're the largest purchaser of goods and services. And when the government becomes the largest purchaser, people move from private roles to public roles. That increases drive time and wait time for the patient on the medical and dental side. And then they exert market power by decreasing reimbursements. In Britain, the National Health Service provides a lot of benefit, but there are many dentists that also move toward private practice because every year their quota goes up for the number of people they need to see and the reimbursement goes down. And so there are some dentists that have iterated to me that they find that very difficult. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at it. I think we have to, many of the things that I was involved with when I was president, the Action for Dental Health, which is now law. I announced that at the National Press Club. It was a nationwide effort to drive care to those that need it most urgently now, strengthen the public and private safety net, and also focus on prevention before everything starts to fall apart. Dean Ornish, the famous cardiologist, once said, you can have a sink overflowing and you can hire as many people as you need to sop up that overflowing water until somebody shuts that faucet off. You never get control of it. And it's the same way with healthcare. So, and that was passed into law where there are grants that are available, emergency room diversion techniques, and other things that we put into place to try to ease the burden of people that need care because of the divide. So much to talk about there, Howard.
Right. So under monopoly, there are many buyers, but only one seller. And on the other hand, a monopolistic competition, there's what is the best way to explain that?
So if there were 10 companies in a community and you're the only person that lives there that's going to buy their goods and services, you can pretty much drive those prices down pretty easily. So I think that, it's kind of a similar kind of analogy on the other side. The monopoly, you're the greatest provider. If you're a monopsony, you're the largest purchaser. And if you're purchasing those services, the providers are going to have to accommodate you in some way. And sometimes, and I know there have been some dentists that actually are providing in some of the programs, are providing care. They're in their own pocket to provide the care. And the reimbursement doesn't match the output for their overhead to make it. So that's why some people leave certain programs, not because they don't want to provide that care. It's because it's not funded to the right level to even let them break even.
My view is every dentist should just keep one eye on the patient and one eye on cost, because if you don't use your talent to drive down cost and make dentistry faster, easier, higher quality, lower cost, more affordable, then humans won't have the freedom to afford to keep their teeth. That's why I like DSOs, because I lived in Arizona for 30 years, and on a Sunday, if you fell off your bike and broke your front teeth, you'd find 3 mermaids on a unicorn before you found a dentist on Sunday. And now that there's DSOs, guess what? The only 3 publicly traded DSOs have hours 7 to 7, 7 days a week. 2 in Australia, 1 300 Smiles, Pacific Smiles, and then in Singapore, Q&M. And now I'm seeing 7 to 7, 7 days a week. And that's what my grandchildren need. Now, their lazy, fat dentist dad, grandpa, never worked those hours. And so I want it's like why I joined the ADA and the AGD and anybody who's fighting for dentistry. I mean, I like competition. But if my homies, they're usually listening to this on the way to work. They got an hour commute. And if you're on the Stairmaster for an hour, God help you. I don't know what got into you, but just stop doing that. You know you hate it. But if they go to your website, overjet.ai, what are they going to find? And how is it going to help them in their practice today?
So yeah, what they can do is if they go on the website, they can schedule on the right-hand side. There is a schedule demo button, or depending on whether they're looking at a phone or not, it might be in the center for them. So this schedule a demo, they can see how the software actually works. And then installing in their practices as well. As you mentioned, DSOs are the ones who are looking at this technology probably even faster than the individual dentists are, because they see the value in it, in looking at improving the practice performances. So currently, all major DSOs are engaged with AI in some form or the other, and it's an opportunity for the individual dentists to start utilizing the technology to help improve their practices as well. And to your point of looking at the revenues and the costs that are coming in, as well as the care that is being provided, to make sure that they're doing a good job.
It's so funny. I've been saying this for a long time, that if you have a new dental company, a new IPO, and it just makes total business sense, go to the DSOs, man. They will sit down and listen right away. But the dentists, it's always about clinical dentistry. And that's why I love my homies. I mean, they're like chefs. They just want to be in the kitchen cooking. They don't want to know what the table turnover is and all that kind of stuff like that. And to make the case in point, today I have 2 meetings. And the one with the dentist, it's about a clinical invention of how to do a root canal better. And he's all excited about this. And it's so funny because I guarantee you the guy doesn't even know what his overhead is during a root canal. He doesn't even know how many different fees he charges for. But I think this is going to be a big boost to dentists. DSOs, and I hope that you, this is my selfish take on this deal, but you have it for the insurance, you have it for the practices. You talk about on the practices, again, it's clinical outcome, it's improved patient care, it's increased treatment acceptance rate, it's automated administrative tasks, but I just can't wait till it just takes all the information out of your accounting software, and then takes all the information out of Open Dental, which is the only open practice management platform, and that's the only one growing the fastest with no advertising whatsoever. I know Dentrix is the market leader because Henry Schein's so huge. I know EagleSoft is the next one because Patterson's so huge. But if you look at growth rates, Open Dental is exploding. And I would just love it if when my receptionist, you call up and you schedule to have your 2 fillings done. And based on whatever plan you are on or whatever, she schedules the 2 fillings, and the schedule hour block turns red and says, you will lose $107. So she's like, damn. So she moves it to 45 minutes, and now I'm doing it for free. And then she moves it to a half hour, and now I'm making a Benjamin, because I swear with dentists, no matter how much time you schedule them for the procedure, they'll consume it all. Like if I got an hour to do like the small filling, I'll wait, the assistant will have to beat me 10 times before I go in the room, and then I'll go numb it up and go back to my office and drink another cup of coffee. But if she beats me to the room and I've got 30 minutes to do 2 MOD composites, I'm running to the room. So how long will it take before you can have that real world knowledge to your staff that we're selling something at 9 different fees. Are we going to make money on this procedure or not? Because that's what the DSOs are doing. They're figuring that break-even point out. Do you think the individual dentists will be able to have the same technology as a DSO with 500 locations?
No, at least the way we look at it is it should be the right patient care that is being provided. Like number one, it's the quality of care that is being provided to the patient. And number two is, making sure that you're doing it in a way that you're making, it makes financial sense as well. So in this case, absolutely, you can definitely determine, basically you should not be making, the other flip side of DSOs is also, you sometimes making decisions which might not be in the right interest of the patient. And now they're moving more towards providing, or there are DSOs which are moving towards ensuring that the right care is always delivered. But I think there is an advantage to the fact that dentists are looking at patient care, number one, looking at financials, number two, but financials should be so easy, as you said, automated in a way that they don't have to think about it every day. They don't have to think about, what is my production every second, because that's all been taken care of. And if there is an issue that's being highlighted for them, if there's alerts coming in, if they're not adding a note, there's an alert coming in. But in the end, the final thing is, what we see a lot is in practice, and Bob can talk more about it, is treatments are getting done, they're not getting billed. Why? Something is falling again down the cracks. Extras are being taken, but never been claimed for. Insurance will pay for it, but it's not happening. Down coding is also happening. Everybody talks about up coding of procedures. There's so much down coding that's happening, and people are losing money on that as well. So in general, if you provide the right care, comprehensive care, in the best practices we've been to, it's the care that is, very comprehensive care is being provided. The right information is being given to the patient, and the patient are making decisions better because their treatment is, or treatment acceptance rates are much higher in practices which are just focused on financials. So I think there's an opportunity to get the financials automated in such a way that the dentist is focused on what they do best, which is provide the patient care and communicating with the patient effectively.
Well said. Did you want to say anything on that, Robert?
Yes, I agree with that. I think the most important thing, the reason I said it was transformative in that initial Medium article, was because I think once the profession gets to a point where you can see things at scale and you're now utilizing the data rather than just collecting it, where the only time you look at that data is when the patient's at the point of care, I think that the profession will never go backwards. And to find that, and then to have the biggest fear people have is that they missed something. Did we have something that we were supposed to follow up on? Was there a lesion that was there that came in and out on a busy day and we didn't get a chance to see that? Maybe we won't see them for another 6 months or 3 months or 4 months. So to be able to see that at scale, utilize that information, bring that patient back and get care delivered in a more equitable and efficient manner, I think that's the profession won't revert from that.
And you've got some superstars on the team. You have Christopher Balaban, a master's in science at DMD. He's faculty at Boston University. I mean, you got Lindsay Nolan, DMD from Boston. You got Frank Nia, chief clinical officer at North American Dental Group. You got some heavyweights, but I'm always a little suspicious of Boston. I mean, they were monopolistic in all the endodontic breakthroughs in my life. What is it about that school? I mean, look at endo. I mean, Boston owns endodontics. I mean, Boston is really, they say what dental school you go to doesn't really matter, and that's probably true, except for Boston. What is it about Boston?
Boston started Perio, right? Bob Perio. Perio was also started in Boston too, right?
Sure. Big programs for endo and Perio. So, and big leaders in the fields.
So I notice a big thing now is that the dentistry, and I know we went over an hour and you're probably hoping I shut the hell up really quickly, but they just started the Dental AI Council, and the initial members were Arish Tola of Delta Dental, Bruce Lieberthal of Shine, Kyle Stanley of Pearl, Linda Vidone of Dental Dental, Lou Azera, Marcus Blatz of Pittsburgh, Merritt Dake of Rock Dental. But anyway, Heartland Dental's in it, Cigna, Walmart, Are you guys going to join that, or what are your thoughts on the AI Council? Is that a goal for Overjet to join that, or is that a wannabe Boston club?
So it wasn't started in Boston, but it is a good initiative. It's again moving in the right direction, and our marketing for AI in general. And I think there is an being for people who are not familiar with how AI works, etc. It's a good opportunity for them to get connected. We're already working with a lot of the people you mentioned in general, and we're focused more on developing products that get utilized in the industry. Right now we're significantly, in terms of the utilization of products is one of our biggest focuses, and that's what's happening right now.
Well, if you ever want to do a follow up, I'd love to have Lindsay Nolan and Chris Balaban come back when you want to talk about more of this stuff, because again, I think it's reached an inflection point. It's reached a tipping point. Robert even talked about in his article that machine learning, the word came out in 1956, and now it's 2021. And that's another thing I noticed when I was a kid, is that everything they talked about, like they talked about in grammar school, that one day on the telephone, you could see the other person. Yeah, that was like 40 years later, from Blessed Sacrament, 6th grade grammar school, to when I actually bought my first iPhone. But now it seems like everything's kind of in hyperspeed. It kind of reminds me of that Star Wars scene where they're trying to escape, then all of a sudden they hit hyperspeed. And it seems like everything is hit hyperspeed. And my gosh, Wardah, you got to be the smartest person I've ever talked to. Robert, goes without saying, you're a legend. And I just want to thank you guys. You guys are busier than a one-armed dentist, and you took the time to come on the show and talk to my homies about all things AI. And I just want to thank you very, very much for coming on the show. And send your other two Boston dentists back if you ever want to talk more. And I encourage everybody to go to overjet.ai. Thanks so much.
Howard, thanks so much. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day.
Thank you.